Alice, we're just after enjoying the launch of the Tourism Ireland marketing plans for 2024. It was a packed room in the Clayton Hotel in Burlington Road. Tell us a little bit about your plans for the year ahead.
Thanks so much for having me, Owen. It was lovely to see you and so many ITIC members there today. And as tourism truly is teamwork, it was a group effort all round. In terms of plans, Tourism Ireland is responsible for the overseas marketing of the island of Ireland. And so we are excited to get the message out there around what the island has to offer. It's such a proud industry, as you know so well, a vital industry on our island that's worth, we estimate, 6 billion euros in revenue per annum across the island, supporting 300,000 jobs, over 70% of those outside of Dublin. And what we're really targeting is growth in the value of overseas tourism to benefit all of the businesses in this space. And we're aiming at a 5.6% year over year average revenue growth rate out to 2030, aiming to get there through stimulating more demand, more bed nights, focusing on those regions and seasons that have, the highest opportunity for growth for the future.
So this isn't just, if you like, a 12-month plan. You're obviously thinking towards the end of the decade.
Look, there's always a sort of time span to plans, isn't there? And benefit to thinking further out in that we want to strengthen the industry over the long term. That said, of course, the accuracy of the plan tends to be higher the closer you are to the moment. So
Yeah,
if, for example, we found we were way exceeding our growth targets, we'd probably adjust them upwards. Or if
yeah,
something hugely changed along the way, we'll always be nimble and agile. But yes, we want to envisage strong growth out to the end of the decade. And
yeah,
that's why we're setting that sort of average growth aspiration year over year to get
yeah.
us there.
And the revenue target as opposed to a volume target, I think makes a lot of sense. What's your thoughts in terms of best prospects market? Because obviously Ireland is open to visitors from the globe, but are there specific markets that Tourism Ireland will be focusing on over the next 12 months with the view to generating additional business?
Well, I think one thing we can say about the industry is there's a warm welcome for anybody and everybody who wants to visit the island. But for us as a marketing agency, in a sense, we want to be really careful in prioritizing where we spend to generate the maximum return for everybody. And our core markets tend to be US, Great Britain, mainland Europe. If we talk about those markets right now, there's lots of interesting trends going on. Cost of living is affecting consumers more so in Great Britain and mainland Europe than in the US. To give you an illustration of that, around 40% of consumers in Great Britain and mainland Europe say they feel comfortably off and plan to travel more in the coming year. That rises to 60% in the US. And so I think we'll always want to have a healthy balance and diversity to where our visitors come from. And we've strong promotional plans across markets. But certainly at the moment, there is a strength to the US. I think because consumers feel a little bit more comfortably off. The exchange rate works in our favor. A
Yeah.
lot of the price comparisons work in our favor. And so there's a real passion to travel from the US that we'll certainly want to capitalize on, whilst also strengthening other markets so that we're not too skewed in one direction.
Yeah. And you referenced research there amongst, if you like, the consumer base in those overseas market. I presume that's a very important aspect of the work that you do, and that drives a lot of your marketing decisions.
Absolutely. We've a wonderful strategy and insights team who run regular research to understand consumer sentiment across the markets. We also then have strong partnerships with international trade, the kind of tour operators, inbound operators who can also bring in visitors at scale to the island. And so, both through partnerships and through research, it's really important to keep an eye on the trends.
Yeah. And I mean, we're all very much on the one page in terms of driving growth and building the industry and growing tourism. But, you know, there are challenges out there, aren't there? I'm thinking capacity, I'm thinking availability of the hotel stock. Even Dublin Airport has a passenger seating that it's very close to. What's your view of that, and how might that, if you like, put a handbrake on some of the growth aspirations that we both have?
Yeah, absolutely. look, whilst planning for great outcomes, it's always wise to have a look at what the difficulties or challenges might be along the way so that we can mitigate any risks. And if we start on the topic of capacity, you're right, there's airport capacity as a topic. We've also got accommodation capacity, 20% of registered accommodation and unregistered out of use by tourism. You've also got short-term lets regulation coming in that's intended to move holiday listings out of use for short-term uses in cities and into longer-term housing. And I mention that knowing that the societal reasons for this are really well appreciated, but it's just another changed reality, if you will, for the tourism industry. So that might all sound quite bleak, and you might be thinking, well, where's the growth going to come from then? But we do actually also have capacity opportunities. If you look at the hotels who are in tourism today, the average occupancy in the summer months is 88%. From October to May, it's 73%. And that 15 percentage point difference is worth hundreds of millions to businesses and the economy. So that's why you'll see us really putting an emphasis on marketing the seasons and the regions that have that capacity to grow, so that we're mindful in spending our marketing budget, yes, to keep the overall picture strong, but specifically to go after those growth opportunities. Think spring, think autumn as wonderful times for visitors to come and find the value and the accommodation to be able to stay with us.
Yeah. Just in terms of Ireland's reputation, and I don't know whether any of your research has thrown this up, but we had recently the riots in Dublin, which obviously were a shocking event to all of us. We've had some really ugly incidences really recently of, accommodation for refugees being set ablaze and, ugly stuff like that. Is that affecting Ireland's image abroad, or are you picking up any negative sentiments? I mean, I suppose every country has this to a certain extent, but we've sort of been living in a sort of a little bit of a peaceful utopia for so long. It's kind of still new to us. Is there any kind of negative connotations abroad in relation to that?
When I look at demand for Dublin, for the island of Ireland, we don't see an effect at this time, but I also don't think we can be complacent. Our reputation is so valuable. And one thing I always think about in this regard is the three things visitors say they come to us for from overseas are: one, scenery; two, heritage; and three, the warmth of our people. And so I think, whilst we're not seeing an effect right now, we do have a lot to lose in that warmth of our people has actually been a differentiator for us up until this point. And I'd hate to see us put that in jeopardy in any way. And I think right now we're in a place where let's try and minimize these things happening for the future. But let's remember that overall our reputation remains strong. We're not an outlier on this topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the current time.
Just a word. I was there today at the Clayton Hotel. Great energy in the room. Really positive reception to your marketing plans. A word on the sustainability, the environmental sustainability of tourism, because obviously everything has now got a sustainability focus. We often talk about commercial sustainability within the tourism industry, but equally Ireland has signed up to a lot of climate action legislation. So we have to reduce our carbon footprint by 2030 and indeed be carbon neutral by 2050. And obviously the tourism sector has to play its part in that as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we've just been saying that one of the number one reasons that people come to us is our scenery. So again, we've every reason to want to protect landscape and environment. It's one of our selling points. And wouldn't it be wonderful if being seen as associated with the color green goes even deeper and we truly are a green and sustainable destination. So there's some exciting launches coming up in this space this year. We're working with our sister agencies, Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland, and we're rolling out an assurance or a badging scheme so that those tourism businesses on the ground who are making huge strides in sustainability can showcase that clearly with a common or consistent badge right across the island, whereby you can show whether you're at the early stages of your sustainability journey or whether you've really become very advanced in this space. And there's so many innovations going on, whether it's the Shannon cruisers moving to treated vegetable oil, cutting their carbon footprint by over 90%, hotels using renewables, such as the Falls Hotel in Ennistimon with its hydropower. Brilliant, brilliant examples out there. So first up, watch out for that assurance scheme that will be rolling out so that people can get their badge. And then we in Tourism Ireland will be shouting overseas about some of those brilliant sustainable moves forward. That said, I think any of your listeners today might be sitting thinking, well, that's all very well, but what about the carbon footprint of actually getting people to the island? And that would be a fair question too. And on that one, being real about it, we are an island and there is a carbon footprint associated with bringing people to the island. That said, in our marketing plans for Tourism Ireland, we're really focusing on those segments or audiences who are likely to stay for longer and spend more. And the point here is we want to maximize the social and economic benefit, meanwhile minimizing the environmental impact. And I think you've made great points before also about moves forward that should be recognized in our aviation industry. For example, Aer Lingus signing up to have 10% of their flights running on more sustainable aviation fuel, ahead of the pack actually in Europe in doing that. So lots of innovation going on. There are trade-offs. It's not always going to be easy. There are trade-offs to be made. There are steps to be taken, but I think it's in everybody's interests and it's something that we need to do.
Yeah. Great. Alice, you've been in the role 4 months now. I think you started in September, did you? You came from, I suppose, the world of tech. I think you were in Google for a number of years. How do you find the tourism industry? I know, you were a director of Fáilte Ireland for a number of years, so you probably know and understand tourism to a certain extent, but you're right in the middle of it now, aren't you? How have you found it? How's the sector treating you?
I absolutely love it, Owen. What a dream job.
You have to say that, Alice.
You know what? I can't lie. I love it. It's my dream job. It really, really is. I come from a marketing background, and I always thought, ever since I was a teenager, I always thought the best marketing job anyone could have would be marketing the island of Ireland. And that's partly because I am a complete staycation nerd. I've holidayed every year of my life around the island of Ireland. I honeymooned on the island of Ireland.
Wow.
Yes, in a VW camper van traveling around what was about to become the Wild Atlantic Way. Although, circle of trust with your listeners, we didn't actually stay in the camper van at all times. We did stay in some very nice hotels along the way because it was our honeymoon. Anyway, all that said, my two huge interests are travel around the island of Ireland and marketing, and coming and working at Tourism Ireland is a dream combination of those two things. Plus, I think the people in this industry are really wonderful to work with. And it's something that I notice coming on board is just how friendly and hospitable people are, perhaps as befits the industry, and how people appreciate teamwork and teaming up and collaborating. I feel there's a real understanding in this industry of how we come together as a destination. So it's very inspiring seeing how various different tourism businesses of all shapes and sizes will celebrate each other's success and team up and market the destination together. And that's also a lovely thing to be part of. So all in all, between the purpose around, sustaining jobs right around some of the most beautiful, but maybe remote places across the island, plus that passion around marketing and travel, and then the wonderful people, I am fully bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and raring to go.
Great. Well, that's great to hear. Well done today, Alice. You and the team really pulled it off. It was a very exciting day, and we're all looking forward to hopefully realizing those growth ambitions in the year ahead. Thanks so much.
But thank you, Owen, and thank you to all of your members, because as we reflected today, I am very excited about our marketing plans and about telling the story overseas, but there would be no story to tell if it weren't for aviation, transport, ferries, hotels, guest houses, B&Bs, activities, experiences, all of the crew that make up the tourism industry. So it's really a privilege to get to work with everybody and tell the story. And thank you for the warm welcome.
Thanks so much, Alice.